This is the Dr. Be Good podcast. Thank you for tuning in and listening. I'm Scott Townsend. I'm not Dr. Good today, and in fact, I never have been. So today we're going to be talking about experiential learning, outdoor learning. We have two great guests with us. We have today Michael Hooten and Jennifer Hogue, and thank you for joining us. So let me start first. Michael, you're the Executive Director of Destination Wilderness Youth. I was looking at your website, and you got some compelling visions on these outdoor programs. Can you tell a little bit more about how that played out from the beginning, including the work at Trinity Environmental Center?
Yeah. So Destination Wilderness Youth is targeting students in the middle school grades, focused on getting students in the outdoors. Sustainable Education Solutions was started back in 2012 as a nonprofit in the Dallas area, focused on bringing environmental literacy to the citizens of Dallas, whether it's adults or students. One of those ways was to start a charter school. So that occurred, opening in 2015. And through that process, we started working with a lot of kids within the community that we were serving, and started putting together programming where we were kind of teaching through an environmental lens, taking students into nature as part of the school day, but also looking at things that we could do in the afternoons and in the evenings. And so what we have developed over time is a program working with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department through grant funding from them to get students in limited resources communities out into the state parks all over the state of Texas. And so we've focused on kind of the North Texas area and have been working with students for about 3 years, engaging them in the outdoors, teaching them outdoor skills, leadership skills, hiking, kayaking, geocaching, mountain biking, and the like, and have had a lot of success in student engagement, not only in the programs itself, but in the classroom as well. So we are working now with additional schools to actually start to bring this program to other middle schools around the North Texas area. And Dr. Good and I had a great conversation about the opportunity to bring that to Legacy Prep. And so we have had some of our initial conversations, and we're really looking to see if there are any teachers at either the Mesquite campus or the Plano campus that might be interested in sponsoring an after-school club geared towards doing these types of activities, eventually getting their students off their campus with their parents sometimes, and doing different activities outdoors. Just kind of see where that goes. And so she suggested, hey, we've got a podcast. It's a way to get some information out to teachers, to parents, and also to students as well. So Jennifer and I were like, hey, let's go. Let's talk. Let's give some of our experiences and see if we can get some interest from Legacy Prep.
Yeah, very cool. Glad you're here. I thought it was a neat program, too. I really did like it very much. And so often you need that just boots on the ground, right? Who's the one person to take it as ownership? Do you find it has to, in order for it to be successful, it has to be someone who is already into camping, already knows how to rock climb, already knows how these things, or can just someone who's got a passion and you can teach them along the way?
I think what we have found is that kind of stuff is helpful for teachers to come in with kind of this passion, and I went camping and backpacking and all of that. But honestly, some of our most impactful teacher leaders have been those that don't have any experience but are just open to the idea. Mm-hmm. In fact, one of our teacher leaders in this past year, he had never been camping before. So the first time we took students out, it was also his first time to spend the night in a tent. And I'll never remember waking up never forget that waking up the second morning that we we were there, only not to find him in his tent. I was looking kind of everywhere. Where did he wind up? And he wound up sleeping in the van because he found a spider in the tent and just could not deal with it and decided to sleep in the van that night. And by the second night, I really was surprised he even stayed the whole weekend that we were camping. But he made it, and he told the students about his struggles of, sleeping in the tent with a spider, and he learned a powerful lesson that you're supposed to keep your tent zipped up. So little things like that. After that, he, by the end of the year, we went on our spring outings last year, and he was telling the kids he was an outdoorsman now. So he was ready to embrace the outdoors. So I think as long as you have that open mind, that really can kind of help fill in those gaps for skills, and we're there to learn together. So.
Yeah, that's great. So did you find anything in terms of people that changed the adult mind changed completely in terms of their experiences? Now they want to do it with their own family or their own friends, or just a better awareness of the environment?
Yeah, just not having the experience of being in the outdoors. The thing that got this entire process started in 2012 and creating Sustainable Education Solution is around the idea that we are building ourselves out of nature. Society is pushing nature further and further away, and as we continue to have urban sprawl, we are missing out on our forests, we're missing out on our access to our rivers, and as a result, we're growing a generation of kids who do not have the experiences that, say, someone had 20 years ago or 40 years ago, in that, mom said be home before dark, and you had run of the neighborhood. And so our kids don't really get to experience that now. And so there's a book called The Last Child in the Woods, written by Richard Louv. And he has a statement in there that the generation of kids that we're growing now, that are growing up now, are considered digital natives, but they also are demonstrating aspects of nature deficit disorder. And so as you're going through that book, what he is hitting on, and I'll let Jennifer speak to this a little bit as well, is that his ideas are that as we get further away from nature, because nature has always been our protector, right? Has always been our provider. As we are moving further and further away from that, what is that doing to the human being as we continue to grow and evolve over time? And the research shows that it's not a good thing. So one of the aspects of our program is to ensure that our students get access to experiential learning in the outdoors where they are challenged. We all know as teachers that a student is going to be learning at their highest level when they're just right outside or right at the edge of their comfort zone. And so when we talk about teachers and their experiences going outdoors with us, but also students and teachers are both maybe struggling with some of the same things. Mm-hmm. It creates a nice bond between the teacher and the students, and then when they return to class, there is another or a new layer of a relationship that you've built with your students going on trips like this. So, but I mean, Jennifer can speak to some other aspects of that of the book. It's very powerful, and it's a powerful experience both for the teacher and the student.
Yeah, and I think we've seen with adults as well as children that go on these outings. Of course, we have a lot more students with us than we have adults. But those that are not, outdoors people before they get involved with the organization, they I think experience the benefits in the same way the students do. And so, right now it's Richard Louv talked about this in Last Child in the Woods about the fact that we are becoming disconnected from nature. But the truth is, we're never going to be removed from nature wholly. And so, we have English teachers that come on these outings with us. We have other volunteers in the community, and so they don't have the science background that Michael and I shared as science teachers. But that natural curiosity about living things in the natural world, I think, is intrinsic in all people. And so that's kind of the premise about nature deficit disorder, that as we become more removed, we start seeing these issues in society that we're trying to solve. Things like childhood obesity, depression, the anxiety that kids feel being, in a box inside of a school all day long and not being able to, get out and explore the way that generations before them had. Mm-hmm. So with us and trying to use this approach through an after-school program, it's more than just teaching them the science and the environmental concepts. It's about giving them those experiences. And our hope is that through working with the teachers and working with the students, that we can then encourage that to take place with a family, and using organizations like Texas Parks and Wildlife that already have a lot of these programs available. It's just not well known. Most of the students in our community, they don't know about state parks. They don't know where to go camping, or even where to start with that. So we're trying to kind of give them an avenue to approach it and be able to sort of get into that area that they may not have any familiarity with at all.
Mm-hmm. And part of that is not having the knowledge or the equipment or the means to buy the equipment to keep yourself safe and comfortable in an outdoor setting. So we've got a trailer full of camping equipment to keep us all comfortable. The adults we keep more comfortable than the students.
Just slightly.
Just slightly. Adults get a cot. Students get a sleeping pad where they sleep on the ground. But the idea is that we slowly introduce them to these things. We'll have different activities that we might do after school on a Saturday morning, by where we'll bring the camping trailer and we'll pull things out. We'll teach them about what's in the camping trailer, and then we'll go through demonstration about how to set up a tent. We'll start talking about leave no trace, some of the principal aspects of what it means to be out in the environment, and how not to leave evidence that you were there. And so all of that programming kind of leads up to a time when we actually are going to invite parents out. The Texas Parks and Wildlife Department has a organization that is called the Texas Outdoor Families, and they have equipment to take entire families. We're geared, focused on students and teachers of those students, whereas the Texas Outdoor Family will actually take out an entire family. So they actually do all the cooking themselves, whereas we cook for the students. So we have a camp chef that manages breakfast, lunch, and dinner each of the days. But we're offering this to all of the parents of the schools that we're going to work with this year, is that we'll go with Texas Outdoor Families and take your entire family. So the brother, the younger sister, the aunt, uncle, whomever haven't been camping before and want to kind of experience it with their child first, also get to know us and our team. That we'll offer that to families in the fall, November, I believe is when it is. Before we actually go out in the springtime.
Have you done that in the past with the families?
No, this will be our first. We've always done it with the students only. Now, we have had events on campus before where parents will come out and we'll do, kind of s'mores and stories and stuff like that, just to give them an experience of what it'd be like. But we actually haven't camped with parents before. But the Texas Outdoor Family group, they have experienced rangers that go with us to go between each of the sites. We can take up to at least 20 families. And so they'll work, each family has its own campsite. They have all their own equipment, and then we just kind of rotate through. We've created a schedule for them, so they'll actually get to experience some of the exact same things that their kids going to experience on their own. So we might do geocaching in the morning, and then maybe in the afternoon we're doing kayaking. And we're looking to do all of this at Cedar Hill State Park this year.
So is this in response to something you've learned about working with the parents and having the parents more comfortable with their kids going, or is it just to expand it to the nuclear family?
It's to expand it to the nuclear family because so all of this is funded via a grant from the Texas Parks and Wildlife. So Destination Wilderness Youth exists, but it exists only through funding in terms of being able to access students and be able to get all the needs that you have to be able to run a program like this. So we have that grant established. We've had it in the past before, so we were renewed for this next coming season. And the grant itself, we have to touch a certain number of participants. We have to have a certain number of participants, and we also have to focus on having at least 50% female participation, and we have to focus on at least 50% minority participation, and those are basically the qualifications of the grant. And our desire and our hope is really to focus on areas with limited resources. And so that's where we're focused, and we think that there's some opportunity, within Legacy Prep as well as other schools within the South Dallas area.
Yeah. So in terms of your past, so I mean, if you're going back from 2010 before, so it's a couple years before you really began.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you get on this journey? What's your personal story? Where's your vested interest where this went? That's what I want to do. Like, Michael, what was yours? Or Jennifer?
Well, personally, I think we kind of have our own, I don't know. I was a very late bloomer with camping. I tell people this a lot. I didn't go on my first camping trip until I was 22 in college. And it was a life-changing thing for me. I went to South America backpacking for a month, and I saw the world through completely different eyes after that. And so that transformative experience for me, I was like, gosh, if everybody could have that, the compassion, and there's just so many things you learn that you can't hardly even articulate into words. And so that kind of started me on my outdoor exploration journey at a very late age. But Michael and I met very shortly thereafter. Actually, we shared our first classroom together as science teachers. And so, you kind of see the impacts of being outdoors with kids and how those experiences are different than any activity you could do with them in the classroom. And so watching that and seeing their reactions to that was just, that kind of began to shape my thinking about the importance and the need for environmental education. And now kind of seeing some of the issues that we're having with this mass biological extinction that's going on right now, issues like global warming. It just seems to be more of it's something that students need to be connected to, and they need to be exposed to that early, much earlier than I was. So for me, that's something that really still, kind of fires me up to get kids out.
Yeah. My dad was in the military, and we traveled all over the world. Every 2 to 3 years, we're moving somewhere new. And we were lucky enough to live in some pretty amazing places: Colorado, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Germany, Holland. And as a kid, I know moving to these places, the first thing that is yours is the outdoors, right? Is nature. And so it just became kind of an affinity of, being able just to walk through a forest and just to be gone for a long time and be able to come back home. And, when I moved to Texas is kind of flat and not too exciting. But the state park systems are pretty amazing. They have really capitalized on some very special places in the state of Texas. There are a lot of private ranches as well that have got some really pretty amazing places that are open to the public. But it was kind of starting to see some of that specialness here in Texas. You just got to open your eyes. Yes, everything is flat, and yes, it's a prairie, blackland grass prairie. But the special places are already identified for you, and if you take the time to seek them out, you're going to see some pretty amazing things. And so children who are growing up here need to learn to love here. That's one of the kind of the tenets of, you got to love where you're from before you can learn about something new or love something new. And so that's, thinking about the Great Trinity Forest and the Trinity River. A lot of people don't even know that exists in Dallas. It happens to be the largest urban hardwood forest. I'm not even going to say that correctly.
North America, yeah,
in North America,
you got it.
And for Dallas, it's basically the lungs of this city, but nobody really knows where it's located. And it stretches from downtown southeast, going through Oak Cliff and Pleasant Grove. And it in itself is beautiful and has very amazing spaces. And so one of the things that we were working with our own students is taking them out into these spaces, is that this is yours. The more you know about it, the more opportunity we have as a community here in North Texas to preserve it. And there's a lot of great things that are happening in downtown to identify the river and to kind of conserve it and turn it into a park. So there's some good work that's going on, but our kids who are sitting in classrooms and living in the southern part of the city, they don't really know what it is. So that's been one of our goals for Sustainable Education Solutions and for Destination Wilderness, is to make sure that we are accessing those who have limited resources within their communities to be able to get into the outdoors in a safe way with professionals through the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, and maybe, change their life.
Yeah, I think you probably will, right? You probably have in the past. Do you have any anecdotal stories of students who were hesitant, have never done anything like this, and now they're hooked?
Oh, there have been so many, and I do a lot of grant writing, obviously, to raise money for the organization, and that they always want to know what the impact is. And I mean, I can just think of dozens and dozens of students that, I mean, every time I would see them on campus, that's the first thing they ask me: when are we going camping again? When is our next hike? Can we go back to that place that we were at? Where we saw the snake? Or I mean, it just, you can see the impact just all over their faces, and they're so excited. It not only are they doing these outdoor things, but, our teachers would remark, hey, have you noticed that, this particular student is they're like doing their work and they're paying attention now. And, they're excited about this camping trip that we're doing at the end of the month. So they're really trying to take care of their business. And so you see, leadership qualities in students that maybe would not be the star on the basketball team or be on the robotics team, but they're kind of missing that niche that they need to have to be successful in school. So I think it also provides an avenue for the schools that partner with us to, give those students who maybe haven't found their thing yet at school to, say, hey, maybe I want to, learn how to set up my tent and, backpack and kind of exist on my own and learn how to ride a mountain bike and, some of the other fun stuff that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we find really the student who gives the teacher the most problems in class are the ones who are the stars when we go outdoors. Those are the ones who are really leading and turning around and teaching others how to do proper stance on their bike, or how to do a proper handhold on a rock climbing wall, or they've got the geocache GPS unit in their hand, and they're the ones who are leading the way. So it just allows for those students who are normally sitting in the classroom and being spoken to in a way that might not be positive, that they can take that opportunity out in nature, outside of the four walls of the classroom, and really be the leader. And then their peers see them in a different light, and that in itself changes the dynamic of a classroom.
Well, I think in terms of legacy, I think we're on board, right? So it's just a matter of naming the boots on the ground, and we're delighted that you're going to be working with us full-time, which is fantastic. Yeah. So as curriculum director of the Destination Wilderness Youth, do you write your own curriculum? Do you use the ones from Texas Park and Wildlife? Are you like any other teacher where you just go out and steal what you can?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Yes, luckily, Texas Parks and Wildlife has a great suite of environmental education resources called Project Wild. They've got Project Aquatic. They've got stuff for early childhood all the way up through high schools students. So we've got a large resource in that, and so we'll be training our teachers this year in Project Wild. But then there's all kinds of environmental education curriculum out there that exists that we'll be sharing with them. And some of the first things that they'll be doing when we start the school year and we have these kids that are ready to participate with us is teaching them just some basic outdoor skills. And we're hoping that they'll be learning these things in the after school component, but then practicing them when we have a campus camp out. So that'll be their first opportunity. We're not going far away. They'll be somewhere that's familiar, and they'll be able to set up their tent and we'll cook a meal and enjoy the campfire and all of those things in the safety of something they're very familiar with, because for a lot of them this will be their first time sleeping in a tent. So it's exciting to kind of see how you can take those environmental concepts that they're learning in the classroom and then extend that out to something that's meaningful and realistic.
So the practicality of this is we're looking for teachers who are interested in running an after-school club by which we provide curriculum on a 6 weeks basis. And that curriculum guides you through an hour and a half of work, which could be 2 45-minute sessions or 1 hour-and-a-half-minute session each week. The teacher themselves would be responsible for doing the recruiting at the campus. We're looking for at least 20 students for each club that we run. And out of those 20 students, probably about 14 or 15 of them are actually going to be coming consistently, and then probably be making their way into the outdoor components of this. But it's running an after school, and then we have a calendar of events of when we're going to do things on a Friday evening, or we're going to do them on a Saturday morning. When we're doing the parent Texas Outdoor Family component, when we're going to be doing the mountain bikes. We're not going to do mountain bikes at a state park. We're going to have them at the school. We're going to practice. We're going to do all the training components before we even get there. That way, we have more time on trails than trying to do all of that training at the campus. So the teacher will have the supplies and curriculum that they need. We'll also do training with the teachers ahead of time, so first aid, CPR, the curriculum components, going through the equipment bins and familiarizing teachers so that as they're going through their day and teaching their 6 or 7 units of English or social studies or whatever it is that they're teaching in middle school, that they've already gone through everything, they understand what they need, and it should be a pretty simple pull and play. Most everything they're going to be doing in an after-school program is going to be experiential. This is not a pull out a piece of paper and sit down and, this is like, now we're going to do hands-on. It's the end of the day. Students are tired. Teachers are excited about the content and the curriculum and the opportunity and the future of what this could be for them. But we want to make it as interactive as possible.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so what's going to be the difference? So in the past you did it with a school, so you had a relationship with those students already built. So here you've got different schools. What's going to be the difference, you think, between a successful program and at a school that may be challenging? What do you think are going to be, what's necessary for a school to do to really ensure success compared to just participation?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that might be?
I think the key is going to be that teacher leader and how excited they are about working with us in the program. Michael and I talked about, this whole idea of expanding to other schools. And I was like, man, if somebody would have come to my school as a, teacher in my first 5 years and said, hey, we want you to do this after school club and we wanted you to take kids camping, I would have been all over it. So we're hoping that there are some, individuals that have the time in their schedule to be able to make this commitment to the kids and be able to spend this time outside of school, because we know what the benefits are to the students and to the campus, and so we're hoping that the teachers are wanting to do that. But outside of that, I'm not really sure what downside there might be, if any, because we're going to be there for support.
Right.
Visiting the after school components, will be there for every outing we have, every event. Our team of volunteers that's committed to the same vision. So.
Yeah. It's just kind of the same thing of what's going to be successful in a classroom. The first thing is, does the teacher know their content? Does the teacher care about me? Is the teacher consistent? Those are the kind of things that we'll just be talking with teachers about, and we want to make sure that same type of diligence that you would have in your classroom is how you run your after-school club as well. And so I think with us visiting, we want to get to know the kids, because when we're out on camp, we're the camp leaders, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
That every teacher, a student from a campus, is never going to participate in anything off campus without their teacher. So their teacher is kind of like their link and connection when we do our outdoor components. So.
Yeah.
But I think the other part is just about the student and just kind of recruiting open it to everybody. But it does need to be something where it's kind of like an application process. It's like you're going to have to put something down. You're going to have a conversation with an adult that shows that you are ready and you understand the opportunity that's here, and that this is not something you're going to throw away because there'll be somebody else. This space is limited. There could be someone else standing right behind you that might want that opportunity and may do amazing things. So, it's not just getting into the outdoors, but it's also looking at progressive leadership skills, right? When we talk about that student who's carrying the GPS unit, who normally is the one acting up in class, we're looking at opportunities for students to take leadership roles. And there are so many components and so many things that happen during a camp out that literally everyone that's there can take leadership roles at any given time. And the other part of this is doing it multi-year. This is not something we just want to come into Mesquite or Plano campus and just do this for 1 year. We want to do it and eventually split it out where we've got 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So you age up through, you're in 6th grade 1 year with the program, and then you have a 7th grade year and you have an 8th grade year, and each year it progressively gets more involved, further away from home, that type of thing. So that it just allows, just a little bit more investment from the student and from the parents.
So if you had a school that was interested, they were curious, they wanted to find out more, how would they find out more?
So we have a website. So Destination Wilderness Youth, the website is dwyouth.org. And there are all of our contact information is there, who we are as individuals, what our history is, our board for Sustainable Education Solutions, who those individuals are and what they do and contribute to this movement of being out in the environment. And the other thing is, a lot of people might not necessarily know about the work that we've done. So, we've been contacting superintendents and school leaders around the North Texas area. And we've already got other schools committed to do this. We are limited in the number of schools that can participate, obviously, just out of time and equipment and funding. But the other part of this is that the teacher, there is funding in the grant for the teacher, because we're asking a teacher to spend time after school every week, as well as some extended time in the evening probably, and to leave their family and come out and go camping with us with their students. And there's value to that, and we want to honor the teachers for that as well. So there are also a financial component of this for the teacher themselves.
Sure. Stipend or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So in the quiet moments, right, when you're sitting there reflecting on life, where do you see the possibilities for this in the future? I mean, when you go way out 5 or 10 or 15 years, you're dreaming big. Where do you see this going for you?
That's a great question.
It is a very good question. I want to see us at a national park somewhere in like Montana, with a group of kids that are backpacking, that are, building their own fires, cooking their own meals, and it's just an awesome experience. I want to go places that they've never been before, that they maybe have never dreamed of going before. So, I mean,
I think there are organizations across this country that are doing this now. But in Texas, there are some that do this. In Austin, there's a group called Austin North. I'm sorry if I got it wrong, but they kind of do some of the same things. And the thing is that they are growing their program to move into high school, so that progressively a student who starts with them in 6th grade goes all the way through 12th grade. And by the time they're in 12th grade, they are prepared to be able to backpack camp for a week on their own in the wilderness. And some of these organizations, they have their own property, so they fly their students out. They're in Montana or they're in Colorado, and they're hiking through and just seeing some amazing sights that they would normally have never seen. And these are generally students from low-income areas within urban cities that just otherwise would not be able to participate and see this. So and it's free to the students at all. I mean, there's no cost to the child at all. And there are, like Jennifer said, there are grant opportunities, and that's part of our job, is to make sure that there's continuous funding to be able to continue.
So when I was looking at your website, so drop-down menus, a couple of the menus you're still filling out, right? Some of the partners you're filling out.
Right.
But one of the things you had was #NoWalls. Can one of you speak to me about what you mean by that?
Yeah. No walls is just teaching outside of the 4 walls of the classroom. Everybody thinks that you have to learn and that learning happens at school, but that's not the truth. When you're thinking about being a child, it does not have to take place in the 4 walls of the classroom, and it is something that is ongoing, and that as we're progressing through the forest and we're taking on challenges, there are unique opportunities to have real life conversations with students about what it means to be a lifelong learner. And so that hashtag of no walls just means I'm a lifelong learner, and it does not have to happen at school, and that I can take responsibility for myself and learn at any turn.
So on the website, you got a picture of students doing archery. Had any of them ever used a bow and arrow before?
No,
I don't think so.
And it's one of the most popular things.
I can imagine.
As soon as they get sense of, or it is part of the curriculum this year that in a 6-week program, they will be learning archery. And of course, for the teachers and all that, all of the safety components and training all goes with it.
And kayaking and canoeing with swimming,
Same.
Safety around water.
Same. Yeah. So all the folks that go through the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department and do all the safety training and certifications.
Okay, so quick answers. Favorite place to camp in Texas?
Oh gosh, that's hard. I have camped in a lot of places. Favorite place. I mean, I have really loved our time in Palo Duro Canyon. I've been there.
Stop. That's what I was going to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I mean, my second place would probably be Caddo Lake.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were talking about like where to take the kids, we were really going for the wow factor. Like, where could we take them where they would be like, this is like another planet.
That's close enough to North Texas area.
Right. So yeah, we took them to Caddo Lake. That was our, kind of our first big adventure, and seeing those cypress trees with the Spanish moss growing, it just looks like we're not even in Texas anymore, let alone, Dallas. So, but yeah, Palo Duro Canyon was awesome too.
Yeah, Palo Duro for students. The first time we get there, and you go this switchbacks going down into the valley. Students are like they're on a ride at Six Flags. Literally, their hands are up in the air and they're screaming as we go down. But it's like being on another planet. The colors, everything is so red. And this last time we had an opportunity to be able to do a moonlight hike. So we hiked out during the day, waited for the moon to come over, and then we hiked back at night. And being in Paladuro at night, all lit up by moonlight, was it was life-changing for me. I know for them it was quite amazing.
Got a chance to talk about full moon versus new moon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is a full moon. We knew there was going to be a full moon.
Right.
Yes.
That day.
We were prepared.
Yeah.
So do you prefer a headlight, a headlamp, or a flashlight?
Well, I mean, headlamp, yeah, that's all. We don't think we have any handheld flashlights.
So how about the easiest way for a family to start on their own? So let's say there's a family out there, they're not sure, maybe they're not in the middle school, maybe their students are either older or younger. They thought, maybe I want to dip my toe into the waters of the outdoors. How would you suggest starting somewhere in the Dallas area?
They can download the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department's app, and it has every state park that is here in the state of Texas, and you can just click on the little map icon and it'll show you. In Dallas, we have got 25 parks that are within a 2 to 3 hour radius, so you can really get away without really getting that far away at all. So it's not going to be as dramatic in some cases, but there are some beautiful parks, like Mineral Wells State Park is gorgeous. That's like an hour and a half from Dallas, and so I think you've got to have some basic equipment, but most of that can be borrowed. You'd be surprised how many people, if you're like, hey, we want to go camping, who's got a tent? Does anybody have a stove? You don't even have to really cook if you don't want to. So there's some easy ways to do that.
Day hike, maybe not even overnight at first?
Absolutely, yeah. And a lot of the organizations that we partner with do those the Audubon Center, they've got day hikes going on all the time where you can go with a guide that will kind of point out all the natural features for you and, kind of make it a little bit more enjoyable that way. But, there's just so many things, and if you don't know where to start looking, it can be a little difficult.
Sure.
The Sierra Club is another. We work with Sierra Club, the what is
Inspiring Connections Outdoors.
ICO. So a second grader, a third grader will be able to go and take a nature hike during the day, say Dogwood, maybe Cedar Ridge, or someplace like that. So opportunities for little kids to do that as well. But every state park on that app, you're going to be able to find, every state park has camping, they have RV, they also have screen shelters, and some of them have cabins. So you really can kind of pick your choice. If it's really the first time out, and maybe you want to go and just stay at a cabin, it's the features of home, but yet you're not at home, and the outdoors is right there. Everything is well mapped out, and it's real simple to find the great places to go hike and see. And then just kind of progressively get to a shelter, and maybe then just get to camping, or maybe one day you want to buy an RV. I don't know.
Yeah.
You get tired of sleeping on the ground.
Right.
Well, there is an age. There was a time when I said I'm not sleeping on the ground anymore, but
I
still
enjoy
do
it.
it.
It
Yeah.
reminds me that I'm alive. Until
That's
the
true.
morning when
Well,
it's
you
like,
feel it.
like the
Absolutely.
baby giraffe waking up. So for about the cost of a movie, they could drive an hour or two away and do a day hike and bring a sandwich and get back. And for less than going to a hotel, they could go out and get a cabin and hang out and have all the comforts of home. Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Do you have any other questions for me that I forgot to ask you?
When are you coming on our camping trip with us?
Well, I'm really quite looking forward to that, yeah. My big purchase of the summer is actually a new pair of hiking boots.
Excellent.
And, it was really...
We'll help you break those in.
Yeah. Boy, they're better now. They don't have to break in like the old days. No blisters or anything. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, the website, dwyouth.org. Our contact information is on there, our phone, email address, michael@dwyouth.org. And just let us know, if you're interested, or even if you can help in some way, even if you want to be a volunteer. All of our volunteers are background checked, and, if there are parents or family members at any school of any student who's participating, we do have opportunities for parents to volunteer in this process as well.
That sounds great. Now, I wish you the best of fortune with other schools, and I'm really looking forward to working with it at Legacy.
Absolutely.
Yes,
That'll
we're
be great.
excited.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thank you guys both. So that's the Dr. Be Good podcast with not Dr. Be Good. But thank you so much for joining us and tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ask Dr. Be Good show. For more information on Legacy Preparatory Charter Schools, visit our website, legacypca.com, or call 469-249-1099. And remember to like us on Facebook, where we stream live weekly Tuesdays at 3 p.m.